Good morning, and welcome to the 12 Attitudes and Responsibilities of Mastery. My name is Michael Bailey, and today is Wednesday, August 17th, 2016. And I'm going to start today where we left off last week, which was the topic was fear. The subtopic was the eternal light. And so today, we're going to begin with grace. If you approach God with grace, you will know the grace of God. Grace is an interesting word. Grace is just like love. There is a reality of energy in the state of grace. Hanatilia is one word you could call it. When all of your Merkabahs are light bodies, are working in sync and bringing all of your higher consciousness and direct cognition to God fully into your body. Before we can get to a state of Hanatilia, you have to enter grace. Grace is where you rid yourself of perceptual filters, picked up either here or in some other lifetime that are limiting you. These are limiting perceptual filters. The filters that are telling you things that make your emotional body feel afraid or fear. We can teach ourselves to be fearless. We can teach ourselves to be effective. We can teach ourselves to face any experience in a state of grace. Grace means that you cannot like something and have a preference for it to be a different way. But hate is unknown to you. You can use the word hate and know you don't really mean it. It's a non-word to you because the emotion of hate does not live in you. You cannot simultaneously exist in a state of grace and hold the emotion of hate. That is part of the state of grace. It is being able to love those who are causing you harm or causing the planet harm. That does not mean laying yourself down as a doormat so they can trample all over you. No. Part of the state of grace means being quietly assertive, where you learn to honor yourself because you are a face of God. You honor everyone else too, because they are all faces of God, even if they have forgotten that they are also faces of God and are acting like they really aren't. But you cannot forget to honor you. And this is what the other schools of thought that teach you to be a martyr, they slap the God in you right in the face. And when you honor those belief systems more than you honor the God that lives and breathes through you, basically you're slapping God in the face and slapping yourself in the face. So this is the time to really get into the idea of grace. Being in a state of grace is when you allow the all-oneness to be what it is, whatever it is, regardless of whether it suits you. It means living in a state of perpetual forgiveness. And eventually, as you become more into an eternal existing state of grace, there's nothing to forgive. You don't have to live in a state of perpetual forgiveness because you don't hold anything against anybody. Oh, yeah, and actually move beyond the place eventually where forgiveness is something you don't have to do anymore. Forgiveness implies that you had to hold it against somebody in the first place. It implies you had to judge it instead of love it in the first place. Now, it is still in our state of evolution down here on Earth to use the tool of forgiveness because of the messed up way love is thrown around. That word is thrown around, the emotion is thrown around. I am recognizing the truth of the all-oneness. I am recognizing that every person has free will that they might choose to use differently. And the ones that suffer the most from their choices are themselves. So I have compassion. There is a whole evolution of emotion that happens as we begin to integrate the higher frequencies. And when I refer to frequencies, I'm talking about frequencies of consciousness. Another way to think of it is terms of energy. The higher the frequency, the better it feels. The highest frequency is love. For now, forgiveness is a place to start, because it's certainly better than being stuck in blame and judgment where you just hold in the anger. Anger is actually twisted or mutated love. And hurt is the feeling of not having a harmonious love experience in whatever you are being hurt with or through. Hurt builds to anger. It is love literally being turned inside out. I can really strongly dislike the behavior of someone, love the being, just like you love the child, but you don't have to put up with the behavior. You can try to make changes with the behavior. You can have issues with the behavior. But the being, it is a face of God. No matter how bad the behavior, love is what all beings deserve. All beings have the same basic need, to love and to be loved. And some things to ponder or to think about. How could we teach someone to be fearless? What are some of the ways you can honor yourself as a face of God's source? Perhaps by being fearless? And some suggested affirmations or linguistic template reprogramming statements. I am fearless. I am fearlessness. I recognize the truth of the all-oneness. Grace and gracelessness. One of the most beautiful statements I ever heard Iesha say, Iesha is speaker one, was that when you approach God with grace, you will know the grace of God. It does no service to anyone to respond to someone else's lack of manners. Immaturity and discourtesy is not tolerated by the Eoni. Manners were or should have been learned by most of us in the sandbox. No one is talking lofty spiritual principles here, just plain, simple, common courtesy. Not responding is certainly a reflection or an explanation of their behavior. I choose not to respond to it. However, you may wish to. That is your choice, as it is mine. So some things to think about. Try to hear what you are saying when you don't like something. Are you using the word hate? If so, try changing the energy around the thought in your mind by using the term prefer or preference. For example, instead of saying, I hate hot days, try saying, I prefer cool days. And some suggested linguistic template reprogramming statements. These are things you speak aloud to yourself. I am grace. I allow the all-oneness to be what it is, regardless of whether it suits me. I live perpetual forgiveness. And along with grace comes gratitude. Even though other people might not know, you are as Christ sitting down next to them. If you sit in a pew with them or ride in a taxi with them, you are bringing to them as close as possible those frequencies of the Christos and the highest levels of creation. And there is an honor in that, an honor that is not at all about arrogance. It is of gratitude to be able to serve and to give in that way. Gratitude is appreciating the all-oneness, knowing your aliveness. You aren't going to feel good. You aren't going to feel anything good in your life if you do not at least recognize that you are alive. And that you might not have this and this and this, but what do you have? Do you have two eyes that work? If you only have one, that's fine. You've got one. Is your cup half full or half empty? Are you an optimist or a pessimist? The way to begin bringing abundance into your life is to focus on how much you already have and to be grateful for it and to thank the universe for it, to thank yourself, your higher selves or your higher aspects for it. Recognize the gift, and you will bring in more of the same frequency, more of the gift. This is the law of attraction at work. If you give out garbage, you're going to get garbage back. If you give out goodness, that's what you're going to get back. If you get so caught up in, I don't have this, I need that, I'm so depressed, I would be happy if only I had this or that or the other thing, you're never going to be happy. You might get this, that, or the other thing, but by the time you get it, there's going to be something else that you are missing. You are learning to focus on the fact that you do not have, and you are ignoring the fact that you do have. This is what the advertising takes advantage of. They focus on what you don't have. That's how they con you into buying things. This is what happens all the time. Oh, I will be all right when I get this. I'll be fine once I find a lover or a husband or a wife. And you get this, and it is great for 2 weeks. And then you start to see the other stuff that you don't have that gets put in the corner. And then people end up collecting more and more stuff. And they find they have lots of stuff, but they're still not happy. I went through this myself. I had all kinds of things, and here I was miserable with all these things around me. Stuff is not going to buy you happiness. Stuff is not going to fill that big empty hole in the middle of your heart. A necessary part of the journey is to return to gratitude for whatever it was you had or that you have. Sometimes you make yourself go absolutely broke. You literally end up going bankrupt where you go back to nothing. And maybe you were hungry for a couple of weeks because you got kicked out of your house and had nowhere to go, so you stayed under a bridge. And you might have learned gratitude because you found a plastic bag that was clean, that when it rained you could put it over your head so you didn't get totally wet because you had to sleep that way and it would get very cold at night. You learned to very much appreciate that plastic bag. There is something to appreciate and be grateful for in everything you have. You might have this chatter going around in circles in your head where it is interpreting everything through a negative filter. You can take charge of that. You can find the good that is or was in any situation and make a choice for gratitude for whatever it was you had or the lesson that you learned. And some things to ponder. Try doing a meditation at least 3 times a week that has nothing to do with technique. It is a technique or a ritual all in itself. Go sit somewhere, anywhere, quietly with yourself. No interruptions. Turn the phone off. Breathe. And slow your breathing down a little bit. Because slowing your breathing down sensitizes you more to your environment. And it brings you more into the now moment. Look around you and find the first thing you can be grateful for right now that is nice, that is in your hologram. For example, maybe the room is a comfortable temperature. You're glad that it's not cold or too hot. It may be 100 degrees outside, but it's nice 72 inside. Find whatever it is. You might go to a bus station and see a flower that somebody left on top of a garbage can because they missed when they were throwing it. But it gives a pretty color over there in the corner in comparison to the ugly garbage can. Some suggested affirmations. Self-talk. I am grateful for all the lessons I learned today. Thank you, God Source, for the opportunity to be here at this point in time-space and to hold frequency. Consciousness. I am this. I am. Learning to say thank you. Such a small little thing. We have lost the art of saying thank you. We say thank you in our society as a social protocol. It's coming out of the mouth, but rarely is it coming from the heart. It is not felt because you are saying thank you simply because somebody told you to, your boss. You are obligated to appreciate the fact that somebody gave you something, or that God's source gave you life, or whatever it is. But if you did not like the gift that was given, even if you say thank you for the gift, your energy is saying that you don't mean it. It's not sincere. You would be better off actually saying, excuse me, I really don't want that. Thank you for the thought, though. You may not like the gift, but you can still appreciate the thought behind it. Some things to ponder and think about. Think about appreciating the all-oneness, knowing your aliveness, and being grateful for it. What are 3 things that you are grateful for in this very moment? Write them down. Using the attitude of gratitude, what are 3 things that you could be grateful for? And some suggested self-talk, affirmations. I am gratitude. I appreciate the all-oneness. I know my aliveness. Reverent respect. We are supposed to learn how to use our minds to direct energy, to create the desired results we want. There's nothing wrong or ungodly with doing this, as long as we do it with a reverence to God's source and something we call divine right order, which means that whatever the original intention of God's creation of this time matrix was, this is how I want to create, which is basically love. We are all divine beings. We are all created equal. Whether or not we have equal level of this or that, we are all of equal value. Feel the presence of your whole self. It is the same presence that people call God, because you are a part of that God consciousness. You have divine potential just as much as anything else in the universe. We are all very literally created out of the consciousness of God. Consciousness of God is literally the substance behind everything, all that is. The energy that we are composed of, that creates our consciousness, our conscious awareness, is made of the units of the consciousness of God. We are all blessed. All beings are blessed. even the most vile and wicked ones you can possibly think of, are blessed. Creating with reverence and divine right order, which has to do with trust. I agree to create with divine right order. And I know that God's source will help me create within divine right order. You are not going against the flow of God's source. You are not doing anything that is going to cause harm. You are working with the concept of divine right order. Everything has a right time and a right place. I think somewhere in Ecclesiastes it talks about this. There is a time and a place for everything under heaven. I forget exactly how it goes, but you project the symbol of the image you are desiring to create. And as you do, push it out, send it on its way, and simply give yourself the thought, I decree this to be. So as it is decreed, so as it is done. You can speak the words to yourself. I have now created this. I now create this. Whatever this is, you can name it. Naming it helps, though you can actually put a twist into it that you don't want. Just call it an it. I now decree it. Or call it this. I now decree this. It is mine. There's a really big difference between saying I am that I am and I am this I am. Big difference. Very subtle in sound, very big difference in energy. There's an old gesture from the very ancient angelic days. It was a gesture of reverence and respect and thank you to God's source, or to the source of all, for allowing us to have the power. It was a bow. It was a kind of the simultaneous, speaker one bowed, then raised her face to the sky or ceiling as if she was lifting her face to the sun. And it was, thank you, as she breathed in, raised her face again, opened her eyes, smiled, and said, thank you. You don't have to use the gesture, but the sentiment behind it is saying, thank you, God's source. I have the power that you have given me, and I will use it well and in your honor. And I thank you. If you send that charge with it, you will manifest faster, because it is part of the reverence lesson that creators need to learn. It's great to have reverence, but you should be part of what you are having reverence for. The true God being values each and every one of its parts equally, and each part that grows back into what it was becomes that self. Respect and hold in reverence the sovereignty and God's spark of all forms of life everywhere, regardless of origin, race, sexual orientation, creed, color, class, or religion. And some things to think about. Do you acknowledge and give to the all-oneness on a daily basis? How do the following statements manifest in your life? Let me be a vessel for thy good works. Let my will be thy will. And some suggested LTR statements or affirmations. I acknowledge and give to the all-oneness. I respect and hold in reverence the sovereignty of and God's spark of all life forms. I am reverent respect. I am this I am. responsibility. It is not my responsibility to save you or to walk you by the hand, take you to the library, and hand you a book and make you sit down for 20 minutes a day and read it. This is the responsibility that each of us needs to take. If we want to become informed, we take responsibility for learning, and it is as simple as that. Less than Kristic behavior. And this is, I believe, Speaker 1 speaking here. She's talking about an experience. It just amazes me. People one moment spinning in a round table doing very sacred work, and the next day throwing a child's temper tantrum, calling people nasty names because they didn't like the pasta. For the Paxos trip, this was a trip to Paxos, Greece, for the very first time, we have turned down acceptance of 2 people who wanted to register because we did not wish their attitudes or their rude behavior on our trip and with our group. I have a feeling that is not going to be an isolated case. We will just not tolerate that type of behavior. We cannot. In the nature of the work that we are doing, it pulls the frequency of the entire group right down. And by that same token, certain behaviors amongst those of us in the Nexus Skype rooms or in our teams, we can't tolerate certain types of behavior. Because if we do, it brings the whole group down. Now, everybody has a bad day, a needy moment, a temper tantrum or 2. Traveling is wearisome, and tiredness can lead to crankiness. There have been very few of us who do not experience a time when our field integrity is dropped, and we exhibit less than Kristic behavior. However, for a handful at workshops and trips, this has been a 24/7 thing. For some reason or other, some people complain day in, day out. They complain about most meals. They complain about the delay in starting the workshop. They complain about the cost of the trip, the travel agent's service, that something is too hot, it is too cold, the soup is too salty, the turkey is dry, the fish has bones, I don't like my seat, yada, yada, yada. They resent the expense of the trip and manifest that resentment in incredibly rude behavior to the staff that handles trips and workshops. This type of constant complaining is a drain on the energy of everyone. As my beloved compliment says, if you are not convinced of your own perfection, you will see that belief in your imperfection manifested in every aspect of your hologram. For those of us who are considering coming to, an independence conference or some kind of meeting or group, if you cannot maintain a spirit of centeredness and wholeness, please find it in your heart to stay where you are and to do whatever work is necessary to heal. Or if you're going to participate online with your mic turned off. Or, by all means, come with the desire to heal. The frequency will help you achieve that. The work we are doing here requires a level of spiritual strength and maturity. We need strong, committed, centered people. And this is true whether we're speaking about a group that does sacred healing work for the planet or whether we're talking about the Nexus mission. Part of responsibility is learning your parts so that you know what you are doing with your energy. You do not go and just scream icky things at other people because you feel like you're having a bad day. If somebody said to you, well, I hate to tell you that God made it in a way that you are responsible for your energy. That means that if you go into a neighbor's house and you use their bathroom, you don't leave pieces of toilet paper all over the floor. You flush the toilet. You clean up after yourself. You take care of your energy. Not screaming at others just because you feel like you are having a bad day is part of learning to take control of your energy. Now, we know these basic social things. We are taught these things, or hopefully. This is learning to take control of your energy too. There are people out there who say, "Oh, I don't need to learn that." Really? You do not need to be responsible, huh? Who is going to control your energy if you do not? This is part of our responsibility. If you really want to be an ascended being, if you want to ascend past this earth into higher realities, if you want to have the ability to be the Christed being that you were created to be in the first place, this is part of what it means. It means simply knowing the basics of some of these things and how they work. Because with this knowing, you can know what to do with your energy. If you see certain things happening out there in the 3D world, and you get good at this stuff, you will be able to shift it just by how you move energy through your field. You can actually stop a mugging. You can actually put a hijacker to sleep like a baby. Make him fall down on the floor and probably make him suck his thumb if you really wanted to. There is power in responsibility. If you want the power, you need to take the responsibility. We are all grown-ups here and responsible for our own behavior and our own creations. Any action must first consider its likely consequences if responsibility is to be understood as well as assumed. We are reminded that we need to concentrate on our individual preparation beyond anything else. For without that, we will fail to deliver that which we came to do. And some things to ponder and think about. Try using the power of your inner Christos to call back your energy if you forget to control it. Any frequencies in your biofield that are not yours, send them back to their owner or point of origin. And this doesn't require any hocus pocus abracadabra. It just requires intent. And if you want to flip your wrist and say, go back, that will help because you're expressing your intent. Remember, the universe is consciousness. Consciousness is awareness, and it's all intelligent. And some suggested affirmations. By the power of my own Christos, I am invincible. By the power of my own Christos, I now send back to their owner or point of origin all frequencies in my biofield that are not mine. Your personal responsibility. No one can make anyone else happy or sad. Everyone is responsible for their own fields, hologram, and feelings. You cannot take responsibility for someone else's hologram. And the state of each person's shield is their own responsibility. Your personal responsibility is to tend to your own fields. Keep them strong, fortified, and protected. That is the responsibility of all of us. When your field interacts with another, it is their responsibility to tend to theirs. As long as you have not deliberately and intentionally interfered with the fields of another, you have not crossed any boundary lines. When you fully take responsibility for the creation of your own hologram, a cigar is never just a cigar. Should you give power to the illusion of coincidence, you diminish your own personal power. Everything happens for a reason. If you miss the various little signs that your body and your external hologram that you created are sending you, you also diminish your own personal power. If you dismiss things like, oh, that's just a coincidence. If you attribute those little aches and pains to the illusion of 3D existence, you bought the lie. You put on a victim hat, and yes, you guessed it, you diminished your personal power. There is nothing so powerful as when someone takes full responsibility for their hologram. True power is a very humbling experience. Simple, bottom line, we are responsible for everything in our hologram. To think otherwise will put us right back into the poor me victim mode. That is a denial of our divinity, an ultimate denial of ourselves. What happens to us is drawn to us as a result of our thoughts. Remember, like energies attract like energies. With that premise, what appears unpleasant and not Christos-like is a wake-up call to change our thinking and hence our actions. Reclaiming your power. Becoming the director of your personal energetic power and the path of your evolution your consciousness will follow is not only a right, it is your responsibility. We have faith in your intrinsic integrity and offer our support, encouragement, and love to all that muster the courage to face rather than turn away from that responsibility. Each of you will reap the harvests of your own personal choices, and you will join together with others making similar choices to create a collective reality field through which your consciousness can evolve. May you choose well and favor enlightenment instead of darkness, comprehension instead of ignorance, freedom instead of blind obedience to forces beyond your perceptions. You have the ability to become free and powerful, loving and wise. Rediscover this promise. Reclaim your power as co-creators within the universal scheme and use it now while so much hangs in the balance, awaiting the outcome of your individual and collective choices. You must now relearn to believe in yourselves and to break free from the limiting self-concepts that have been imposed upon you by outside forces, and which you have imposed upon yourself through accepting limitations without question. You are not victims unless you choose to be. Remember, everything is a choice. Choosing ignorance is choosing victimhood. Your power lies in the choices you make each moment, in the thoughts you allow yourselves to entertain, in the actions and events within which you allow yourselves to participate. Take responsibility for directing your subtle energies, and you will be well on your way to personal empowerment. Some things to think about. Co-creating with, serving, and being able to respond to the all-oneness. Being responsible. Some affirmations. I am responsibility. I co-create with, serve, and respond to the all-oneness. Trust. You can trust people to be precisely what they are, whatever that might be. Love everyone, but don't let your frequency guards down. The worst thing you can do is to be afraid. Fear is a choice. Learn to trust yourself and amp up your fields. Not all beings are nice beings, even though we all came from the same place originally. When you have incoming frequencies, first you need to trust yourself. And if you are picking up something, realize, well, it could be my imagination, or it could be just I'm letting myself get a little too nervous, or it could be something there. Put it in a file, we call it file 13, until you get more information. But just in case it is something, make sure you amplify your personal fields. And the worst thing you can do is choose to be afraid. Be careful. Sometimes people will actually be on a secret mission to get at your fields, though they will not consciously know that this is what they are trying to do. Be aware of that and take it all with a grain of salt. Love everyone and do not let the frequency guards down. You can trust people to be precisely what they are, whatever that might be. And it might be later that you find out what they really are. So better safe than sorry. And above all, fear is a choice. There's something a lot of you will really need to get a mental grip on. Many of you are doing well. But there are some people who freak themselves out by the thoughts they let themselves entertain. For example, oh my God, the Archangel Michael crew is going after me. That might sound a little strange, but actually the Archangel Michael crew is a pretty nasty group. Whoop-de-doo. They can only reach as far as dimension 11.5. So impress me. Do you know what I mean? They aren't the only ones that can throw attitude. The biggest thing with groups like that try to harass you is that they are dependent on you being harassable. If you aren't harassable, just get off. Like, go do it to somebody else. Don't waste your energy on me. Have a nice day. Put up the Teflon. If you learn to put up a Teflon shield, there are all sorts of cool things you can do with it. And using Teflon, which is a coating that stuff just slides off, can be really, really useful. Do not be harassable. You know, there's a title of a book, Others Can't Drive You Crazy Unless You Hand Them the Keys. If distorted energies from other dimensions have been like flies buzzing around your head and trying to really shake your fields, just say, all right, I've been nice, but I'm going to give you the last warning here. And realize that you have the power to do this. You're not going to hurt anybody, but you are not going to let them hurt you either. You have the power to not be hurt. Ever hear of the boomerang technique? Boomerang techniques are easy. You put up, and again, you just do this in your mind with intention. Put up a rubber field, very bouncy rubber, all around yourself. And imagine yourself in a lovely capsule of it. And anything that anyone throws at you, and you can choose the velocity at which your rubber is going to bounce. If they just mildly annoyed you, you just go, boing, did you catch that one? Hopefully they'll get the hint. Don't be harassable. This not only happens with other dimensional beings, but in 3D with other people, bullies. Some things to think about. Practice putting up a Teflon shield. a shield from which stuff would slide off. Next, practice putting up a rubber shield or a capsule around yourself. And actually try to make the sense feeling of it as real as you can. And some affirmations. I am a powerful Christos being. I am invincible. I am this. I am. Creating with trust. We have the ability to be a creative force in our own lives and to influence what is happening on the planet. The word cannot is not in the Angelic Human Dictionary. You can manifest anything. You are an aspect of the consciousness of God. God is limitless and has power all over the place. Nothing is impossible. Maybe it will not be easy all the time, but cannot just does not work. You have given yourself permission, and you have told yourself you are not going to be a creator that abuses anyone. And you tell yourself you would not want to have so much power that you could abuse anyone and not realize it. Some people actually block their own power right there. Essentially what they're saying is, I'm afraid to have my power back. Somewhere I know I am a creator, and I was a part of some really nasty dramas, and I really made some stupid choices, and people got hurt, and I feel terribly guilty still. There's a part of us that carries some of that imprint, where we made some bad decisions and political dramas that had to do with Terra, and Terra almost blew up. Terra is the name of Earth in the dimensions 4, 5, and 6. That is the kind of the scourge of the human DNA imprint. There are some very nasty memories in the DNA imprint where we feel really bad because we made some messes. This is where forgiveness comes in. We have to learn to forgive ourselves and to say, hey, we will do better now. Trust yourselves with the fact that you have the power to create. These are the things you need to do before you worry about how you create. Realize that you can consciously create and that God wants you to. Give yourself permission and trust yourself and know that you are a divine enough being that you have your Christos template. If you choose to create through your Christos template, you can trust your judgment. You don't have to worry that you're going to mess up or create things you hate, or that you're going to make a mess of your life when you decided to take it and you let it run all over you, when you tried to direct it instead of just flowing with it. There are ways to use your conscious mind where you can begin to make shifts in your daily life right now. If you realize you have a Christos self and that all you need to do is to work with that self, it will help you bring in the things you need most. It will also help you see if you are trying to manifest something that's a distraction or a compensation for something you feel is lacking, that really needs your healing. You will have a really hard time manifesting those kinds of things. Bottom line, give yourself permission. Know that God wants you to. If God didn't want you to become a creator, He never would have given you the power of creation or free will choice. You're supposed to have it. It is part of our responsibility to become conscious co-creators. The techniques and trust. There are many techniques that come with these teachings. In a technique, if a detail is not spelled out, the mechanics of the detail are not energetically important, and that detail is best left to one's preferences and higher aspects of self. In other words, it's best left to your own judgment. It is absolutely critical at this moment that we learn to trust those higher aspects. Just as a note here, techniques are sort of like rituals. They're guided visualizations that you can take yourself through, where you will learn to work with energy. The key word is to relax. Keep doing the techniques, and you will develop the security and the trust to listen and to recognize your own Christos self. It is good to want to get the accuracy of the techniques correct, but equally important is the trust and connection with the God source within that goes along with the techniques. As a matter of fact, the connection is sort of a technique in itself. It is that connection which will take care of the details if you let it. Some things to think about. Trust. Trusting in divine right action, divine right order, divine right placement, and divine right timing. My relationship with God's source comes first. And some suggested affirmations. Self-talk. I am trustworthy. I give myself permission to create through my Christos template now. I know the power and love of the all-oneness. I am an aspect of the consciousness of God, and my power is limitless. I am this. I am. And this is where we're going to leave off for today, beloveds. We'll start next week with accountability. Thank you.